Good evening. Welcome to Addressing the Issue with me, Andy Streisfeld. This is a more of a relaxed look today for me, rather than wearing the sport coat. And I have my friend with me, Dave Prank, CEO of Chamber of Commerce of Brantford-Brant. How are you?
Good. Great to be here, Andy.
So, it's always interesting having you on the show because I could talk to you about so much as a business person, as a business leader. And so today's focal point, we're going to continue with our arc on affordable housing here in Brantford-Brant. Just to give you a preamble, we had last week a group from Belonging Brant. They're actually having their Tiny Home Summit on Wednesday at Mohawk Park. This will be airing after the fact, so spoiler alert, it's happened. But they did give a really good presentation on trying to tackle affordable housing from tiny homes. And we talked about this something of the style that's happening now. Like it's happening on the Six Nations Reserve, it's happening here. It's, in a sense, it's something new for homeowners to say, hey, if you got some room in your backyard and you want to build a little tiny home, you could rent it out, instead of redoing a basement. So, Chamber of Commerce, what do they feel about affordable housing? And then let's take it into tiny homes after that. So.
Okay, sounds good. So, and I've done some work with Belonging Brant over the 2 or 3 years. It's almost reached the end of its 3-year initial funding. So we have or initial term rather. So it's been a pleasure to be part of their couple of ABCD symposiums. I've actually had them on our chamber television show as well. So really pleased to be part of the work that they're doing, and they are through Community Living Brant chamber members as well. Part of our 55 nonprofit members. So affordable housing is part of the housing continuum, and which ends in market rate housing and the various levels within there, from basic to high end, and then that continuum from fully subsidized, or I guess from homelessness to fully subsidized housing, and then everything in between on that continuum to housing that is affordable. The chamber, as part of the Ontario Chamber of Commerce, every one of our chamber members is a member of the Ontario Chamber of Commerce as well. And the Ontario Chamber has been working hard at this through their advocacy committees. Our Brantford-Brant Chamber participates through both the regular participation in the Ontario Chamber of Commerce Policy Convention, as well as authoring policies of our own, and participating in the most recently coming up in October, the Canadian Chamber of Commerce and our Policy Advocacy Committee from that process. So looking at where the business world stands on housing as affordable, it is an absolute necessity that businesses have employees that can live in the communities in which they work. So from a big picture perspective, communities need housing where workers that are earning the average wage in the community, or average wage for an employer, can afford to buy a house. And I know as an employer ourselves within the chamber, we have a number of employees, and those employees need to be able to purchase a home and work in the community, because that makes them sticky to us as an employer, but as well as the rest of our membership. You need to have those members be able to afford a house and be able to have a sense of value and pride in where they're living and why they're living there.
All right. Yeah. So David, I'm going to take you on a tangent and bring you right back. Okay. So through the efforts of the Chamber and other social groups like the social services clubs, like our local politicians, we were able to score the victory and get the train back. Now, people have criticized that Brantford is a bedroom community, but it should be, like you say, it should be a community where we are sponsoring industry, and people should be able to get the jobs and live in the community rather than take a train to go and come back. So let's come back to this. This idea of affordable housing. Now, we've seen a desire at all levels of government. We've seen it with social service groups. We've seen it with the Chamber. We've seen it with business leaders of trying to sponsor it. So what are the steps that we're missing? The audience is tuned in, dialed in an idea of affordable housing. And we'll talk about tiny homes and container homes and all that stuff as we move forward in the conversation. But if we're talking about building the infrastructure, building the roads, building the schools, building the facilities to house more people to in this community, what should we know? What would the Chamber like to educate us out there in the know, or those who are not in the know, about affordable housing?
I think there's no one easy answer or solution to building more homes. It's certainly a supply issue, no matter what angle you angle you tackle it at, the data is there that government hasn't built or incentivized building more rental property of any type since the late 1970s. So the building industry, responding to market demand, has not chosen to build rental housing. So most rental housing that's been constructed or renovated in the last, say, 40 plus years has been either single family homes that have been converted or conversely, apartment buildings have been lost to condo conversions as new owners have come in. Some people attribute that to real estate investment trusts or REITs. Otherwise, it's really the market demands, and builders are responding to the democratic free market system that we have in Canada that says, hey, I want to go to where I can best use my investment dollars to best have a return on my investment for my investment clients and for my ownership group. So I think there's a role the federal government can play in terms of incentivizing. We're seeing that a little bit with the recent announcement in the last couple of weeks of the removal of GST on some housing options from the federal government's perspective in terms of being able to incentivize that to allow the corporate market or the free market system rather to respond to that. You see the province incentivizing in all sorts of different ways. There's some greenbelt conversation there in terms of freeing up land that has now been rededicated into a different way. But there's some taxation things that the provincial government can do. Potentially strong mayor powers thing to entice municipal councils to move in a direction that's aligned with provincial priorities. So that's a very interesting way of a carrot and stick approach. Then municipalities really need to encourage the speed of approvals process, and some of the stuff in the affordable housing or in the acts rather, in terms of giving as of right development for properties that this again create some interesting challenges for municipal councils, but giving right now, if you have a single family home on a lot that's in a neighborhood of single family homes, you could have a great looking single family home, but does that increase the density or the option of additional housing? Well, no. So some of the proposals that are very real to coming into fruition involve automatic duplex, automatic triplex, automatic quadplex as of right without having to go to council to get approval. So that's going to create a lot of challenges for elected officials and neighborhoods as they change to respond to this crisis that we have in Canada.
All right, David, we're going to take a commercial break here, and we're going to be back with addressing the issue in just a few moments. Stay with us.
This program is brought to you by Ignite TV. Now you're in command. Visit Rogers.com for more details.
Our world is changing.
Now more than ever, we have seen firsthand the brutality of systematic racism.
Here in Canada, we can do better.
It is time to connect, commit, and change.
I'm Queen.
And I'm Aaliyah Ali, and we're inviting you to join us on Diverse and Converse.
We'll connect you with leaders from the Black, Indigenous, and people of color communities.
Now is the time for change.
He fell.
Whoa, I'm not driving. I'm way too stoned. How are you feeling, Veer?
Oh, since we had that talk, I'm not driving tonight at all.
What about you, Dave?
You only had a couple of drinks.
And only a couple of puffs.
I don't drink and drive. No way I'm getting behind the wheel when I smoked weed, too.
How are we getting home, then?
Oh, you can drive, Dave.
Come on, Dave.
Take one for the team, buddy.
Don't let weed and alcohol influence your decision to drive.
Yeah, I need a ride.
On Rogers TV.
Get a little messy while having a whole lot of fun. Mindful Makers explores the world around you and inspires you to think outside the box. Join Agnes and her friends as they share crafty projects and talk to local artists. Mindful Makers, Mondays at 6 p.m. on Rogers TV.
Welcome back to Addressing the Issue. I have my guest, Dave Prank, from the Chamber of Commerce of Brantford-Brant. So Dave, the crowd might not know, but you do, on on this network do host the debates on all of them, municipal, provincial, federal. And we've seen a lot of hot ticket items, including affordable housing, discussed. Now, the questions that are being posed by viewers and people in the know or out of the know is, okay, we're tackling the idea of affordable housing. Now, that is for people in need, for people who just can't afford the McMansions, who cannot afford the skyrocketing costs, but it's also dealing with the social aspect where there are people who are homeless, people who need a place to be. And we had Brantford, Belonging Brant last week that talked about tiny homes and whatever it is. So let's tackle the idea of social welfare first. I know that the idea of building a couple of tiny homes in an area might be considered by traditionalists like, I don't want this in my backyard type of thing. So the Chamber of Commerce, I think the Ontario Chamber has a position on that too. So let's see what business thinks, and then we can move on to the building of other housing.
Okay, well, I think it's important to note that, the current proposals or some of the ideas don't involve, say, picking a neighborhood, then all of a sudden you're going to plop a container house or half a container house, in somebody's driveway, just like a moving box might right now, right? Like, it's not just you're going to put these things wherever, and it's like dropping pieces of Lego all over the city. Like, these are the ideas and the concepts involve creating more housing in areas that are able to support it. Hopefully, in most cases, those are areas that are choosing to support it, or where there's municipal space. Lots of proposals have been, repurposing government-owned space, so whether it's municipal, federal, or provincial space, and using that space so it's not like Victoria Park is going to host, instead of tents, they're going to have homes. It's going to be spacing like that's currently vacant. Potentially Mohawk Greenwich or Sydenham Pearl, like those spaces that are great municipal spaces that can be and should be redeveloped. Those places could have higher density housing formats that it could include tiny homes. And those are just two examples, and by no means are they, as a qualifier, by no means are they dedicated for that purpose at this point. But some of the ideas of being able to densify current single-family home neighborhoods, current neighborhoods that are zoned single family. Some of the provincial proposals involve, as of right development of, you could take what might be a single family home on a large lot with lots of green space around it, and as of right, the owner of the house could develop that into a duplex or a triplex or a quadplex. You got some challenges around parking, in how Brantford has grown and evolved, in areas of the county of Brant that have grown and evolved. How do you network and connect those with public transit as well? So there's lots of moving parts here that, because if you can't afford a home, it's unlikely you can also afford a reliable vehicle, or those two things don't necessarily. Sometimes now with the cost of vehicles as well and loans, sometimes you might have to choose between one or the other. So I think transit has to be involved in that discussion as well, and I think that's where the government at all three levels and business in response to it as well. We have to be working together, and that's the power of the chamber network at a national level and at a provincial level, and at a local level with our partners in other chambers. It's tying all of these systems together to create a more cohesive network of living, I guess, that ultimately hopefully reduces the impact on the environment through lowering carbon emissions, but then also to create a higher density space to live in, while maintaining green space as well.
All right. So let's hark on back to when we were in university. A couple months ago, I think the federal government was criticized because they had a proposal that they would restrict the amount of foreign students coming to this country. So that would leave possibilities for vacancies in properties, right? And I remember going to York University in Toronto, coming in from Montreal. My first year I'm in residence, and then after that I had to find places way far away in Scarborough. It took me an hour and a half to get by bus to my campus. And after a while, we now saw COVID, and we saw how people have transcended into the distance education, right? They're not going to the main campuses. They're not trekking to the center of cities anymore. So are we hoping that, and I noticed in a comment that the Ontario Chamber of Commerce made about that, are we looking at a transition that now we can see more of those assets freed up to become more affordable housing for people and families and single families or whatever it is, or are we still hoping that that's still a side of the business. That's still a size of the society that we need to have our students have, housing, be it in the, trekking in the center of town or out in a suburb like York is out in
So I'll
North York.
try to shrink my comments to the sound, the available time we have here.
Yeah.
So I come from I have a background in student housing and being a residence life professional, and I 100% believe in the university first year residence experience, as having done that myself, and then been a student staff member, and then been a professional staff member managing student residences and building them from scratch as well, and having that input. So I 100% believe that there's a role for student residences certainly for first-year students, as well as for newcomers to Canada and international students. There's a role there to play, and I think international students play a valuable role in our society in Canadian society in terms of bringing new ideas, bringing new energy, culture and diversity to university campuses. They also bring a funding piece that is, we won't discuss how those metrics play out, because that's a multi-pronged issue as well. But we need immigration, we need international students for the labor force, because Canadians aren't producing enough children to sustain our labor force, continue to grow and innovate, and that's a position that that all levels of chamber and chambers as well as businesses see, is that there's a value for income or value for international students. I think where it's part of that supply mix, in that universities, I think, have an inherent responsibility to be able to house the students, house or address housing for their students that they're bringing in, and universities and colleges for that matter, because the post-secondary system is public colleges, public universities, as then the private sector colleges as well. So there's a free market demand that's driving increased numbers of international students, but then there's also a public funding component to post-secondary education that, and those types of things mixing with the numbers of students that are coming in, all of that needs to be, I know that all of that needs to have a more cohesive and a more collaborative model in terms of matching supply with demand. And I think if universities are able to develop more on-campus housing, or purchase and renovate for more on-campus or university-affiliated housing, that frees up some of those challenges. And I think there's a responsibility incumbent upon post-secondary institutions to be able to house the students that they're bringing in. But that said, there's still a market piece that's driving that as well, and we need to work with all levels of government to support additional housing, and I think the housing development that universities can do can use some of the tools that the provincial and the federal governments and the municipal governments are able to deploy to address the building of more housing, period, regardless of what that target market is.
All right, then we're going to come right back to that point and others. So we'll be back in just a moment with addressing the issue with us. Thanks. Stay tuned.
Get your tickets for It's All About the Kids concert happening on October 28th at 2 p.m. at the Mennonite Brethren Church in Waterloo. The Waterloo Regional Police Chorus will once again share the stage with Scottish-Canadian tenor John McDermott. This concert is in support of the Waterloo Knights of Columbus annual toy drive. For tickets, visit eventbrite.ca/It's All About the Kids. Call the Waterloo Knights of Columbus at 519-884-2060 or email chorus member Bob Brown at rbrt_brown@rogers.com. Rogers TV is a proud sponsor of this upcoming concert.
Was that 4 or 5? He's lost count and still thinks he can drive. Do you think he knows that when he is caught and charged with impaired driving, he'll lose his license and a lot more? If he gets in his car, he'll face costs exceeding $20,000. Does he realize he could have a criminal record for his choice to drive? And it could be much worse if he crashes. Wonder what he'll be thinking tomorrow.
Have a Holden 1 at 15.
Visit ArriveAlive.org to find out more. Arrive Alive. Drive sober.
For frank discussion on Canadian politics and issues that matter to you, tune in to Addressing the Issue with Andy Streisfeld, Fridays at 6:30 on Rogers TV.
Hey
guys, Steph here from The Cruise TV, the show where we talk about the people and stories behind the coolest cars on the road. Join us on Sundays at 8 p.m.
Welcome back to Addressing the Issue with my guest and friend, Dave Prang. Not only are you the CEO of the Chamber of Commerce of Brantford-Brant, and not only are you a commentator and host of the Chamber debates through all elections, you are also the host of Chamber TV, seen here on this channel.
That's right. Yes.
All right, so I'm going to take it away. I'm going to bring it back to hopefully something peaceful, because probably I'm going to get a lot of hate mail about my position on the university resident situation. But let's talk now about the moving forward of industry and the Chamber. So as a business leader, everyone knows I'm in the recycling business. We talk about using recycled and sustainable goods to build houses. Again, Chamber has a position on that, so I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. And considering that that this is an interesting thing that most people don't know, Brantford has grown to become a sort of recycling-based industry in southwestern Ontario. So if we can build the plastic bricks and the plastic lumber to build the houses, what do you see? And through the Chamber, what does the Chamber see the longevity of sustainable building?
I think it's a great question. I know one of our chamber members, ANC Developments, they're doing some great work with prefab. And I'm not sure the component level of recyclable material in those areas, but certainly the ability to build on, and I mean, infill building is effectively recycling existing serviced land, and it's shown to be the most sustainable way of developing. Not talking about building on green sites, but on building on land that was previously something else, and redeveloping that into housing is certainly a better way of doing that, because that land is already serviced and it's already got hopefully access to public transit. If not, it's got the capacity to host public transit as opposed to new lines, those types of things. So on the Chamber's position, we've got through the Ontario Chamber of Commerce and their policy advocacy work. There's certainly a component there. We also see some options with employer-based housing, where not unlike post-World War II, where industry maybe sponsored or supported or bought the land and donated it for the development of housing. We see some really innovative ideas through our employers in Ontario, where they're looking to build housing that they can lease or rent or sell to their employees rather, and having that co-located or adjacent or close to the employment base, and that creates what's old is new again in terms
That's
of
right.
being able to support your employees. Maybe you can't offer them the wage that's required to buy a market rent house, but maybe you can build that house or that home, and maybe it's not a McMansion, maybe it's a townhouse or a duplex or something like that. But it's attractive, and it's safe, and it's secure, and it's adjacent, and it provides I guess some stickiness, and it provides some attraction level too, because we've seen in Brantford-Brant the ability to, or the need for some of our international offices to bring in employees from overseas for extended periods of time. And we've got some extended stay hotel options and boutique hotels and those types of things that cater to that 30 days and beyond type of stay. So those types of options that if we know that executives or trainers, those types of things are coming in for longer periods of time, having employers own houses or homes or housing is a great option for people moving forward.
So I'm going to take us in a direction. I'm probably going to utter the dirty word, Hamilton. When I first moved to Ontario, and I married a Brantford girl, but her parents were living in Hamilton at the time, and they were telling me how downtown was ruined and how the mountain has been growing. And we had Carly Sortis here 2 weeks ago regarding the Greenbelt conversation, and one of the biggest issues regarding the opening of the Greenbelt and then now I guess the closing of it was that you have a lot of building because of urban sprawl. So we know that there's building going on right now, power line. We're expanding out there. What can we do, or what does the Chamber want to do in regards to trying to build within the demographic of the city center to beef up so we don't have that Hamilton situation? We don't have a dead downtown core, but some semblance of downtown out there in the periphery, right?
I think it's a great question, and I think our city council has done a great job, and it hasn't been, it hasn't been covered well enough yet. But there's something to the tune of between 3,000 and 4,000 housing units approved or in the pipeline for the downtown area, with more to come. So it's not going to be like a New York City type of skyscraper housing, but it's going to be 7 to 10, 7 to 12 story apartment units. Are they all going to be affordable? Not likely, but they're going to be more. They're going to create the necessary market to down. That's the thing, is you add more housing in, the market responds, and stuff that right now might be unaffordable, those prices will drop because there's nicer stuff, nicer product on the market. And I think we're now entering that nomenclature that real estate agents and developers may have used, where we're actually talking housing product, and there's different types of housing product. It's like similar to the dollar store product versus the non-dollar store product. Same thing with housing. You're going to have housing that is level A versus AAA. And that AAA, that AA stuff right now is getting AAA prices. As you get more AAA product, then that AA stuff drops to a single A type of pricing. So I think that's the type of free market response. The Chamber certainly celebrates free enterprise and entrepreneurship. So we see those options and that activity and that excitement to be able to create a lot more housing density in the downtown, because the downtown is part of the urban growth center. The downtown is not just the BIA now, in the expansion area from about 12 years ago, includes Market or West Street, the train station, and Train 82 at Via, all the way down to South Market and Earl Hague, and that entire space there being able to accommodate a lot more housing. It's going to be a lot, it's going to create some changes, and I think that's part of the really exciting part about being in Brantford-Brant. I was just talking to another community developer today at lunchtime, and it is, as much as the challenges that are placed on the table in the city and the county right now, it's also it's much more exciting to be having these challenges to accommodate growth and plan for growth than it is the opposite of retraction and shrinking. So we're in a great spot.
So with the last minute we have here, a little kudos to you as the CEO of the Chamber of Commerce of Brantford-Brant. During your time, good things are happening at the city that's making not only, what's that saying for the province of Ontario, it's a place to live, but
place to live, place to grow.
Place to live and grow. This is Brantford as well. So you have now a OHL hockey team. The city is growing. The downtown is growing. For those of you tuning in, I like to eat, so there's a lot more restaurants. I know some skip the dishes. The Chamber must be happy about this. Must be ecstatic.
I think the hashtag Stronger Together is whenever we meet with the city and or the county or both together, I just see as we're going in a great spot. We've got lots of challenges to respond to, but we also have flipping at the other side, lots of opportunity for our residents and for our businesses to do lots of great things in the next 20 to 30 years.
All right, Dave Prang, CEO of the Chamber of Commerce of Brantford-Brant, host of any election debate, just tune in and watch, and host of Chamber TV. Thanks again for being with us.
My pleasure, Andy.
And if you like what you see, please drop us a line, send us an email, tell us what topics you want us to address, and we'll definitely try to address it here. Until then, we wish you all the best and stay safe.
Call the Rogers TV viewer response line, email us, or connect with us on social media.
Get a little messy while having a whole lot of fun. Mindful Makers explores the world around you and inspires you to think outside the box. Join Agnes and her friends as they share crafty projects and talk to local artists. Mindful Makers, Mondays at 6 p.m. on Rogers TV.
For 25 years, you've been helping to make our roads safer by doing the right thing. You've been the designated driver, you've stayed over, called home,